Hello everyone, welcome to another video on my YouTube channel, and in this video we will understand multi-turn image generation and code interpreter provided by OpenAI in their Responses API. So in part of image generation, you can generate images and then edit the same generated image in the chat itself. When you want to run any Python based code in the Responses API, you can use code interpreter. So let's understand both these new features by OpenAI. So I'm here on my Visual Studio Code and I have a terminal on the side. First, let's understand image generation or multi-turn image generation capacity of the Responses API. I have this .env file inside which I have OpenAI API key variable and key as a value. So the first thing I'll do is that we will generate an image. So it says generate an image of gray tabby cat hugging otter with an orange, I guess, scarf. And then we will check if in the response output image generation call tool is there or not. If it is there, then we will save the image into data folder. So let's first run this. I'll say uv run image generation.py and I'll hit enter. It may take time to generate the image based on the prompt and the tool setting. So the program ran successfully, and if I indeed go into the data folder, I can see an image of a cat hugging an otter. So this works fine. So now what we can do is that we can take the response ID and move to another call where we pass the response ID as a previous response ID argument into the response.create API call, and we will edit the image by saying now make it look realistic. We will use the image generation tool once again. So I'll save this and run the file one more time. So what it will do first it will generate the image, then it will take the response ID and pass it as a previous response ID, and then we have a prompt which says now make it look realistic. That means we will have two images, first the original generated image, second the edited image. The image generation can take time, so the file ran without any error, and indeed in the data folder we have two files. This is the second generation where this is more realistic. This was the first generation where it wasn't realistic. So I hope you understand this thing. You can use the Responses API into your chat functionality and let the user generate, modify, regenerate the same image in the same chat. You just need to pass the previous response ID as previous response ID variable into the OpenAI Responses create API call. Now let's look into the code interpreter functionality. I'll just very quickly uncomment this part. I have the instruction, you are a personal math tutor. When asked a math question, solve it, and here is the question. In the tool, I have used code interpreter, and in the container argument, I have provided auto. If I'll show you that in the documentation, they have clearly written that there is another endpoint with which you can create a container and pass the container ID into the tool argument container. So this means that either you use auto or you provide the container ID. But when you use auto, that means every time you run the code, it creates a container, and when it creates the container, it's going to cost you. Now here I have this old container ID that I was using, but I'll not use that. I'll just comment this part and save this, and let's run the file code interpreter. This call will understand that it needs to use a tool and call the code interpreter tool. And indeed, if you check here, there is a tool called code interpreter. It was called, and here is a container ID on which it ran. So I'll copy the container ID and pass it here for my next call. So that means since the container ID is up and running, I don't need to create a new container. I can pass the container ID and it will utilize that container ID to run my Python code. So when I run this one more time for this API call, it will not create a container again. And you can see it is fast, and here is the response, and it utilizes the existing container ID. So this new set of responses API opens a new realm for the developers to build tools on top of multi-turn image generation API and code interpreter. I hope this video helps you understand new functionalities by OpenAI Responses API. If it does so, please consider subscribing to my channel. That helps. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the life, feel the music. Peace.